All right, so today I'm going to do a demonstration of a drawing of my hand at life size, so 1:1 scale. I think that going vertical makes more sense, so I'm going to do that. And then the other thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to maybe have some foreshortening where my fingers are coming straight at me. So I'm going to set this up in a way where I don't have my hand memorized. So I want you to take some time just to really plan out your composition. Maybe I'll do something like that. That's new. All right. And I'm just, like I said, 1:1 scale. So I'm starting with an HB or a 2B pencil, really light pencil. And I want you to just start with blobs on the page. So my thumb is coming straight at me, which is really a challenge here. So just mapping out roughly where everything is going to go, knowing that you may make some changes and use your eraser later. So that's my initial sketch. It's super light, very non-committal. And I'm also taking the wrist off the page. I don't want a floating hand because that's creepy. So I'm going to have that attached there. I think I've already elongated this a bit too much. Looks maybe a little larger than life, so I'm going to bring this whole thing down. I see a connection here with my middle finger, so I'm just going to draw straight through my index finger. And you can see I'm shortening it because I don't really like what I initially started with. And then I'm going to go in and get a reference to the index finger. All right, and again, drawing straight through that line to connect to the rest of the palm. Now, as I look at this, I want to separate out the middle finger, and I'm relating one finger to the next, trying not to get too involved with details at all. I want general shapes just to get my overall proportions correct. And also paying attention to the bone structure, and I'm just going to look at this for a minute straight out in front of me to make sure that it does look 1:1 and I'm not leading either of us astray. Okay, good. So I want to pay attention to the skeletal structure, make sure everything looks sense. For example, here I've got a knuckle right here. I've got another knuckle in here. And I'm wanting to make that longer, but I don't know if that's a good idea, so I'm not going to do it just yet. Connection here, the meaty part of the finger there. So look at those little nuances, and that goes right in here. Now I've set this up so I have some extreme lighting so I can see some really strong highlights and shadows, which will help me to do my shading and ultimately convey three-dimensionality. And then as I gain confidence, I'm going to switch to my 4B, which is my preferred pencil. This one's not very sharp. And then as I gain confidence, I'm going to go a bit darker. All right, and now I see this ring finger through that hole there. And so kind of pushing my thumb out of the way just to see the ring finger. That appears lower, and I have a little more of a gap than what I drew. So let's see what I'm doing wrong here. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to keep moving around the page. Don't get too committed to one area and start fussing with it. And then that might be where the wrist goes. All right, so I see some wrinkles in there, and then I also see shadow really strong shadow all through here. And then I want to get a reference to the thumb in relation to the ring finger. So let's make sure the ring finger's in the right spot before I deal with the thumb. And then I need to push this guy out. So it's okay to make mistakes, just continue to evaluate what you're doing and don't go so dark that you can't erase. All right, so in here is the ring finger, and then I'm going back to the palm in here, and I see a crease there. I'm looking at that in relation to my index finger, so I'm changing it. And then again, I'm looking at the negative space shape in between the palm and the fingers. And this flows into the bottom of the thumb there. And that looks pretty good in relation to this, where this ring finger is located. So I've got that in there. Now my thumb, my foreshortened thumb. So my thumb, the way you do foreshortening is I want you to imagine almost a grid along the whole hand or the whatever object you're drawing. And I want you to think about where the top of this object, it's not a thumb, it's not a finger, it's just a thing, where this object relates to the object behind it. So my thumb, my foreshortened thumb, so the nail is going to go about there, and I'm looking at that shape. Now, foreshortening, of course, means it's appearing shorter than you know it actually is because it's coming straight at you. So the nail is kind of in there. Let me hold this out in front of me again to double check that it looks right. And I think that's pretty good. So now I'm going to go back down. Remember to always hold it out in front of you. All right, so all of this is in shadow also in here, just to give you a sense. And I see this crease in here to help guide me. I'm changing the location of the wrist. I think I may have moved a little bit, so I'm just gonna get settled with where I want to be and keep going. So thumb moves into palm, and that's the negative space shape. That's the white of the paper I see through there. Back to the ring finger, and now I want to look at the ring finger in relation to my middle finger here. So that's looking kind of funky right now, so we need to adjust that. I see a bend here. And let's erase some of the lines that are just incorrect. Don't be afraid to move your hand because you've got enough on the page at this point where you can get back to where you need to be. I'm just going to erase all of this and shake out my hand so I don't get a cramp.